Hi, thanks once again for joining me on The Boundary Line. Today's topic for discussion is when is the right time to leave that toxic job when self-preservation and loyalty finally come together. What do you do? When do you recognize it? Well, I guess the first thing I'll say is if you're already asking the question, chances are you're a lot closer to it than what you already realize. Or if you're even watching this video, you're on the way, believe me. Firstly, I mean, the second you resign, you might stay thinking you're being loyal, but if you hate it that much, the reality is the day after you've quit, they're already advertising a job. Remember that, the day after you quit. A week after you're gone, the phone calls and texts have already dropped off. You're worried about leaving. You thought these people were your friends. In 6 months' time, you won't even remember them, I promise you. So what are the signs to look for that it might be time to quit that toxic job? Well, toxic is already a good indicator. But what are the signs? Well, if it's no longer fun, going to work shouldn't just be a means to an end, to live. I mean, you should enjoy what you do. And if it's not a chosen career, it might as well be a job you enjoy. And by that, what do I mean? Well, if you're not a lawyer that's raking in 250 grand a year and say you're working at a supermarket, and no disrespect to anyone working in a supermarket, I'm just saying, it's not the job of your career, but it gives you flexibility, but you love it. You love the people there. You love going there. Well, that's a good job. I would say keep it. better doing that than be on 150k a year and wanting to jump out of a window. So yeah, definitely. So that's the first point. If you're not enjoying it, if you dread getting up, if you're always looking at the clock, if you're always angry and you bring home that negativity and that angst, it's time to start looking elsewhere. Are you being exploited? Are you doing are you doing more than your share and not getting recognition for it? Are you one of those people that the boss, was it soldiers win the wars, generals take the credit? Are you doing all the work for the general and getting nothing back? It's time to look for something else. Look, I know in an ideal world, it's not that easy. You might say that look, I've got expenses, I've got bills. Sure, everybody does, but you can always look elsewhere. You can always apply elsewhere and try and get something first. There's never a better time than now. Life is short, life is precious. Why would you want to spend it in a job that really is toxic and gives you no pleasure, right? I'm sure that makes sense. Just number one is identifying it. Number two is having the courage. And number three is actually doing something about it. There's hundreds of things I could go on about that would identify why your work environment is toxic, but the crux of it all is more so than the identification of why it's toxic is how you feel. How do you feel? That's the key. Are you happy with your job? If you don't have reasons why you're happy, but you're happy, well, then it's not time to leave. But if you're at the point, as I said, and you're coming home and you're feeling like crap, follow your feeling. That's the best advice I can give you. Myself, going back, last job I had before I became self-employed, I was working for a pretty big company, quite a large company actually. And I had a really well-paid sales position. It was commission, and I was a sales manager of it was a new home construction company, and it was a great job. Started 12 o'clock, finished at 5:30 in the afternoon. Probably had 3 days off, 2-3 days off midweek, but worked the weekends. Very intense, especially the weekend when you're bums on seats and talking to lots of people, but I loved it. For about the first 3 or 4 years, I really loved it. It was great. I was in a job before that, which was just real estate, where you're constantly having to chase listings. By that, I mean, you had to get the stock. to sell, so the bosses are always on your back. You know, have you got any listings? Where are the listings? You could sell company listings, but you know, I mean, the boss doesn't really need you if you're just selling when anyone can sell. They wanted you to be bringing in business. So I thought the construction was a great opportunity for me because we were selling the houses. It was like reverse selling. The people with the land were coming to us. So all you had to identify was, do they have a block of land? If they did, which most people did in the area we were in, bingo. So yeah, it was a great job. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I loved going to work. We used to have hostesses. They used to have like this Americanized sort of system of like, they owned a court and the court had a cafe and the display homes, and it was awesome. Like I really liked it. You know, I was a bit younger. You know, a lot of the girls there were, there were a lot of girls in the industry, and you know, like it was a great social outlet, great way to meet women, and super cool, super cool. And you know, I was a bit gung-ho then. I was a good salesman, I was doing well, and like I said, I loved it. So yeah, it was probably a slightly toxic environment, but it didn't matter. I was having the time of my life. And that's the other thing, if you're making the money and you're reasonably happy, let me just give you a little tip. Wherever you go, there's going to be politics, okay? So you got to find a bit of a balance. So, you know, to say toxic environment, leave, well, not necessarily. You know, if you're getting what you want out of it, and by that I mean stability, financial stability, and you enjoy it, but you just got to sort of walk on tenterhooks, well, that's okay. That's fine. So this particular job was great. It was going along really nicely for about 4 years. Then one day we were building a new display center and we were winding up where we were, and it was a high pressure job, and they were bringing out like a book of variations for these new homes, and I think it was going to be like 900 pages, and it's like Tuesday of the Saturday opening and we still didn't have the books. Wednesday we didn't have the books. Thursday was my day off, and I went into head office and I'm like, guys, where are the books? And they were like, oh, they've just come in. I see the owner of the company, oh my God, this guy was seriously intense. Anyway, I must have got him at a bad moment, and he just looked at me and goes, make sure you've got, you know the book by Saturday. And I'm like, dude, no chance. Saturday, you're kidding, right? What was I thinking? And he went ballistic. He was like this far away from my face, like, do you know how much money I've spent on? Oh my God, he went nuts. Basically splattering in my face. I took it, and then I heard him go inside into one of the manager's offices and scream out loud, you know, blah, 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 they'll know it, and blah, 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 a lot of expletives, which I won't repeat here. And at that moment, I took a deep breath, I went home, and I thought, I can't do this anymore. I just can't do it. I'm done. Like, it was toxic to begin with, as I said, but it had a lot of pluses. Like, I loved it, but at that moment it was all erased. And I thought about it, not for very long. I wrote an email to my manager, I quit. He rang me and told me he was going to hold my resignation, and I said, nah man, I can't go back. I just can't do it. They owed me a fair bit of money actually, in back payments, not back payments, like in commissions due, and they to their credit, I got it over the next year, which also gave me the confidence to leave and start on my own, start another business completely separate to what I was doing, and that was it, you know, done, finito. And that was quite a while back, and as I said, I've never looked back. In my life, I've been employed by 3 different companies before being self-employed, and each one of them became toxic, and each one of them ended with me terminating. I fortunately never got sacked, and again, it was just that feeling, right? And you'll know that feeling if you're watching this video now and you're like, I don't want to go to work tomorrow. Not because we hate work. No one wants to work, right? We all want to have a full bank account. I mean, you really hate it. You're just at that point. Well, you know what? My advice is start looking. Don't quit straight away. Always have a little bit of financial backup. That's the first and foremost, is have a bit of security, right? Whether it's the commissions like I had, It's you know, just backup money. I would make sure I've got 6 months to a year's worth of savings. And you might say, how can you do that in this day and age? Well, you can. Just start living by what you need versus what you want. Have a plan. Don't be irrational. I was a bit irrational in my last job when I quit, but like I said, I had close to 6 figures in commission sort of tucked away, so it was very easy for me to make that decision because I knew there was money coming in, plus I had money. That's, yeah. I could go on and on, by the way, and you probably want me to shut up, so I will. Thank you for supporting the channel. We're still at our infancy stage. If you like it, please share it, give us a like, drop us a comment, tell me, how's your job going? Have you been in this position? Are you currently in this position? I would love to know. Give me some ideas on videos if you want them. And yeah, at the moment I've been releasing them every day because it's a new channel, but I'll start stepping back to sort of bi-weekly or weekly or you know, bi-monthly, whatever. We'll just play it by ear. But anyway, thanks guys, have a great day.